Hey, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name's Christina Kent, and I'm a fine artist based out of San Francisco. And in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a recent painting exercise I did. It's a still life painting that is all about learning to see color. Now, at first glance, this might look just like a white object on a white table, but I'm going to show you that these grays actually contain a rainbow of colors. So my subject for this painting is almost as simple as it gets. It's my white AirPods case on a white table. This is almost like painting a cube on a table. Now, the case is rounded and it's also reflective, and the table is also a little bit reflective, so that makes it a bit more complicated. But overall, you might look at this at first and think that it's a really simple thing to paint. The lighting is indirect, so we're getting some light coming in through a window, but it's not directly shining on the objects. And so instead, we're getting this cooler light that is hitting the AirPods case and causing it to cast a very soft shadow on the table. And by picking this really simple, some might even say boring, still life subject, it gives us an opportunity to really dive in to all of the nuances of color that are happening within the grays of the subject. After doing a quick sketch of the shape of the case, then I start to add color. And I first look at the shadow areas, which initially look very gray, but as I look closer, I ask myself, is it really gray, or is it maybe a bluish gray, or a pinkish gray, or a greenish gray? As I look closer and ask these questions, I start to see that in the shadow there's a bit more blues and there are some purples as well. So I start to mix some very muted blue and purple colors to add into those shadow areas. And here it's important to note that the photo that you see, this reference photo, was taken with my phone. And I've noticed that oftentimes when doing an exercise like this, when working in a situation that has a lot of simple neutrals, the phone or the camera, any camera that I've used, not just my phone camera, it oftentimes simplifies all of these complex grays. And so when I look with my eyes, I see a lot more color than when I take the photo with my phone. So I would really recommend that after you watch my process, give this a try yourself. Find a white object and put it on a white surface and really look closely and try to replicate the process yourself. Turning my attention to the table, I notice that it's also looking very neutral, but it's a little bit greener than that blue part of the shadow that I just put down. So I start putting in a little bit more of a greenish gray for the surface of the table. But I noticed that the table isn't all one uniform color. Some areas are a little bit pinker, other areas are a little bit greener, and I think that's because I have multiple windows in the room I'm working in, and there are also other objects in the room that are reflecting their own light, and all of this is coming in to reflect onto the surface of the table. I continue along with this process for the shadows of the case and the other parts of the painting. And as I add more colors, as I add more of those hues, it's becoming easier and easier to see which subtle shifts are happening in front of me. And on my palette, you'll notice that although I'm painting what some would say is a black and white scene, I'm not using any black. Instead, I'm using white and a yellow, a red, a blue, and a green. This means I'm going to be mixing all of my grays from these beautiful, vibrant colors, and that is going to be essential to this exercise. it becomes really apparent just how relative colors are. Maybe when you first put a color down and it's surrounded by the white of the page, it looks one way, but as you add more and more colors to the composition, then the colors start to behave a little differently. When I'm looking really closely, this process requires a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of adjustments. Oftentimes, when I'm looking at the subject, I'm not sure exactly what color I'm seeing. And it may seem really simple. We look at something and we think we know what color it is. But so often, the closer we look, the more we realize that it's actually more complex, and maybe we're not so sure about the true color. So, as I'm painting, oftentimes I look at the color and I make a guess. I think, well, it's very gray, but maybe it is leaning a bit towards green. So I can put a green down, but maybe that doesn't feel right. And eventually I'll change that and I'll actually make it a little bit pinker or a little bit more purple. It's all about adjusting and finding that right balance. As I was doing the exercise, I initially thought it would be pretty simple because it is such an easy subject and the colors did seem very straightforward. But the more I looked, the more colors I kept seeing, the more I kept realizing that I needed to make adjustments here and there. That's why I think this exercise is so helpful for us painters because it can really help us pay attention to all of the subtlety in color that's before our eyes. Don't be discouraged if you put a color down and it's not working quite right. By realizing that it's the wrong color, that can help you find the right color that you need. And it really is all about making these adjustments and really looking closely. Don't be afraid to experiment here. Maybe you're looking at a gray and you can't really identify it, so try shifting a gray a little towards green or a little towards yellow and see if that helps clarify what color you're actually seeing. In my sketch, I went back and forth with the colors and hues many times before I finally got to a point where I felt like I had really done justice to all of the nuance that I was seeing. I think exercises like this are so essential for painters because one of the biggest shifts in my painting was realizing that gray isn't boring. Grays are alive, they're full of color, they reflect the environment, the light, and give so much mood to our paintings. It's a great lesson that the closer we look at the grays in our subject, the more colors we're going to see. So if you're a beginner painter or someone who struggles with mixing colors or just someone who wants to see colors more intensely, more closely, I recommend that you try a simple exercise like this. Paint a white object on a white surface and challenge yourself to really work on viewing all of the different hues and colors within those grays. And with time, you can train your eye to see like a painter. So that's all I have for today. I really hope that you found this video helpful. If you like my videos, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, or consider supporting my work on Patreon. My Patreon supporters get to watch my videos early and ad-free, so if you do like my videos, be sure to sign up. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.